The Houston Rockets just shocked the NBA the other night, beating the Golden State Warriors and advancing to the semifinals of the in-season tournament. For a lot of people, this is the first time they've watched the Houston Rockets play basketball. Now, I'm not going to condemn anybody for not watching the Houston Rockets because unless you have League Pass, there's really no way to watch the Rockets play. They have 11 nationally televised games besides the in-season tournament games that they get this year. And I think that's one of the bright spots of the in-season tournament. Now, the ratings might not have increased the way the NBA would like, but I think a lot of small market teams are getting the recognition that they rightfully deserve because they're now on a big stage and the NBA is going to promote these games, like the Houston Rockets and like last year, who I want to compare them to, the Indiana Pacers. Last year, the Pacers came in to the in-season tournament as a team that no one really knew about unless you really watched Pacer games or if you were a diehard NBA fan. And the Pacers came in and were dominant. I mean, they went all the way to the championship game. They did lose to the Lakers, but Tyrese Halliburton became a star overnight. He rode that wave all the way into a conference finals appearance, and he was on Team USA, which is one of the best Team USAs we've seen in a while. That in-season tournament really propelled the Pacers into a household name, and now they're not playing as well. But I think the Houston Rockets are going to do the same this year. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to make the conference finals, but I do think the Houston Rockets are due for a long playoff run. And that's mainly because the Houston Rockets are scary on the defensive end. You need to have good wing defenders, guys who can guard 1 through 5, that are 6'7", 6'8", who can also knock down shot on the other end. And the Houston Rockets have a plethora of these guys, but the three main guys that are wing defenders are Dillon Brooks, Eason, and Amen Thompson. Now, Thompson is a world-class defender, and he does something on the court that is really second to none. Whether it's getting stuck behind Luka trying to put him in jail and still being able to contest a shot, or being able to get back down to the block by OG and still being able to block his shot on this fadeaway. Thompson is an elite defender. He's only going to get better, and he will be that guy that frustrates teams on the defense end on the ball. And then his partner in crime off the bench is Eason, who his head coach has compared him to a young Kawhi Leonard. Now, Eason, I'm a big fan of because personally, I have Eason on my fantasy team and he has been hooping. But he's been phenomenal off the bench. They bring him and Thompson in and it's like a bolts of energy. And those two right there, I think are going to be key players that they're going to want to keep on to make a championship run in a couple years. But the reason why all this is really happening, because head coach Udoka has completely changed the Houston Rockets. After multiple 20-win seasons, Udoka came into this Rockets team and has made them a defensive powerhouse. Rockets forward Jabari Smith stated this about his head coach. He lets us play free, but he's going to expect you to play hard. He's going to expect you to defend, and if you're not doing that, you're probably not going to be in the game. I think that's the key right there. When you're coaching a young team, you have to establish the rules. You have to establish what is required for you to be on the court. And for Udoka, it's play defense and play hard. And if you don't do any of those things, you will not be on the court. And it's showing because everyone on their team plays hard. Look at just the other night when they played against the Golden State Warriors. That game-winning play where Jaylen Green gets fouled, you see him diving on the floor to get the ball late in the fourth quarter. Like, that is the hustle that Udoka has set. Like, hey, you guys are going to play hard every single second on the court. Ime Udoka led the Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals and the top-ranked defense his one season there. And he has taken that same mentality and is instilled into this Houston Rockets team. This team prides himself on the defensive end, which is hard for a young team to do. They allow the second fewest fast break points in the league, are first in offensive rebounding, and barely turn the ball over. This is a completely different team than the Rockets we were accustomed to seeing right after James Harden left. When Harden left the Rockets in 2021, most people, including myself, assumed that they were just going to be one of those teams that have a very long and painful rebuild. So we stopped focusing on them and everyone started talking about the OKC Thunder or the Memphis Grizzlies or any of these other young teams. And slowly but surely, the Houston Rockets were cooking up something special over there. Now, we all knew that Alfred Sengun was nice when we saw him play. Like, that man's a bucket. And then last year, Jaylen Green really started picking it up. And then all of a sudden, the Houston Rockets looked legit. After tanking for 3 years, they were able to draft a nice young core with the guys like Terry Eason, Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, and Jaylen Green. Then last year, they hired Ime Udoka and then also signed free agents Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. And after making a push late last season to get into the play-in, they're now in prime position to make a playoff run. Now, before we crown this team the next dynasty, let's put on the break. This team is extremely young and they're still missing some pieces. And did you hear what Charles Barkley had to say about the Rockets on TNT?
Played the game strictly on talent. Like, they should have won that game, but they got so much more talent than the Warriors. But That's one of the reasons I say they got a great record. They're not ready for prime time because the refs had to give them this game tonight. They got a bright future, but man, they're going to have to learn discipline. They're going to learn to take care of the ball. They're going to have to learn shot selection.
I mean, he's absolutely right. This Rockets team is the third youngest team in the NBA based off weighted age at an age of 24.8, which would make them the second youngest team in NBA history to win an NBA championship. Now, I don't think anyone's thinking championship right now for the Rockets unless you're, like I said, probably a diehard fan, but this team is legitimately probably one piece away from actually contending for one. Well, I think the one thing this team is really missing is a star on the wing position and a really good point guard. I think Fred's kind of on the tail end of his career right now, and then your wings are good, but I don't think any of them are really stars. You have a star in Alfred Sengun down low, but I think you need a guard and then a wing that can really complement him. And I'm sorry for you Rocket fans, but it's time to cut ties with Jaylen Green. Last year, he looked really good towards the end of the season, and he looked like the guy that we all hoped he would become when he got drafted in the NBA. But this year, he's kind of taken a step back in the direction that he was before last year. Now, Jaylen Green's never been a high efficiency player, but that was okay when he was in his first or second year. Now, this team is ascending to heights that no one saw this fast, and it's time that Jaylen Green needs to pick it up, or he has to get shipped out. This year, he's shooting 39% from the field and 32% from three, while averaging less than 20 points a game. But I think the most concerning thing about me when I watch Jaylen Green play basketball is he doesn't play to his strengths. He's one of the best high flyers we've ever seen. If you've ever seen his high school mixtapes, he can absolutely fly. I mean, he's one of the best dunkers when I think he's in a dunk contest when he really wants to be. But he tends to settle for a lot of pull-up jump shots. I mean, he's attempting 7.7 3-pointers a game this year, which is around the same amount of Klay Thompson, Zach LaVine, and Jordan Poole. The reason I haven't watched a lot of Rockets games is because one of the first games of the year, I decided to watch the Houston Rockets. I was like, oh, the Rockets are going to be kind of good this year, and I had picked Jaylen Green up in one of my fantasies, and I was like, well, let me check out the guy I picked up kind of early, thinking he's going to have, because I remember how we played in March, like, oh, he's going to have a big year, and boy, was I disappointed. Now, this is a game early in the year versus LaMelo. I don't know if you guys remember, LaMelo had this game, I think he had 30 or 40 points early in the year. He's had a lot of big games, but I just remember watching that, and I kid you not, every possession, it felt like Jaylen Green just came off a screen and chucked up a three. Like, let me see if I can find how many threes he shot that game. Yeah, so I'm not exaggerating here. Jaylen Green shot 15 3-pointers in this game. Mind, this is the second game of the year. He shot 15 threes, and he was 5 for 15. This is why I haven't watched Rockets basketball. I said, oh no, I'm not watching this. This is terrible. I'm not watching this man chuck up threes all game. And LaMelo shot 12 threes, so I didn't even finish watching the game, and I knew these guys were chucking up threes. And that was really the last time I'd watched them other than the other night. So I was like, well, let me look and see if Jaylen Green's doing any better. Let me check out some things. Let's look at some stats and stuff. And he just doesn't play smart basketball, in my opinion. Now, I think Jaylen Green could be a great player, and I don't want to speak down on him. I really think he can be a great player, but I just don't think he's there yet. And I think at the way that the Rockets are moving, you either have to move him or you have to maybe bench him and show him like, hey, like, you're just not playing right. I don't know. But let me just look. If we look at his shot chart this year, you can see that most of his shots come to the top of the key, which he shot a lot of threes. He was literally coming off the screen and just chucking up a three. I kid you not. I felt like that's all he did that game. But yeah, his shot chart, you just see 170 top of the arc threes this year. 107 times he's been to the lane. His mid-range game is non-existent. He just literally doesn't shoot it, and he can't shoot it. He's 20%, and I think that's another problem. He's not a 3-level scorer. I would say he's a 1.5, because I don't really think he's that good from the 3-point line, but he continues to chuck it from there. This is a problem. I'm going to be real with you. This team is great. I think their defense makes up for it. I think a lot of their other guys are great, but this right here is a problem. And until they fix this problem, they're not winning anything. You're not winning anything with your second best player playing like this. Like, no, this is unacceptable. I also saw something on Twitter that said he was like the worst isolation player. So this was on November 26th. He was the worst player in ISO field goal percentage so far. And he's at 13.3. So, which is significantly worse than anybody else, which AD's number 2 at 35.7. I mean, yeah. So, in my opinion, I would trade Jaylen Green. They have a lot of draft capital they can move. I think pretty sure they're offloading some players. Contracts are leaving. They just gave Jaylen Green a big extension too. I don't know if that'll make it easier or harder to trade him. I'm not really sure how his money looks, but I just don't see this team winning if Jaylen Green is playing like this. If he can get back to who was playing in that stretch in March of last year, yeah, this team could really be legit, but they're not going to get any better than a fun in-season team and a cool first or second round bounce until Jaylen Green picks it up or they trade him. But overall, they still have a lot of flexibility, and I do think this roster is legit. I think they have a chance of making a good run this year, and then I really believe Jaylen Green will probably be off this team. If not by the end of next year, honestly by the end of next year, I think that he'll be off this team. I think they'll make a blockbuster move because this team is definitely trending upwards, and they definitely are going to have to get somebody else out there. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave it a like, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think about the Houston Rockets. Let me know what other team I should break down. And as always, God bless. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have 30 to 45 seconds, I would love to read a verse from the Bible from you. If not, I understand, and I wish you a great day. But if you did stick around, let me read a verse from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1. For if we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. I think now more than ever, it's important to know that this earthly body is just a temporary body until we get to heaven. What you do here in your 80 to 90 years is nothing compared to where you will spend eternity. So take a moment, repent for the sins you've gone through, and know that Jesus is Lord. And I will be praying for all of you guys. If you have any prayer requests, drop them in the comments. I'll be praying for you. I love you. As always, God bless.